just a sinking ship, and you're just a pair of lips that I've lost in the moment. All I want is for you to come back. Now I'm caught in the middle of life, and I need you to.
Once again, everybody, thank you for joining us on another edition of the Red Pill Diaries. And we're joined again, and we're graced by Colonel Larry Wilkerson. How are you doing today, sir?
Doing fine. A little colder, but fine. This crazy climate going from 52 degrees to 30 degrees.
And it was cold last night here in Florida. But Larry, you and I were talking right before the show. I want to play a clip for you, okay? And this is about President Trump and what he said. He said the Continental Army seized airports. So I want you to listen to this, man, because it's unbelievable. He said that George Washington and the Continental Army seized airports back in the 1700s. So it's a short clip, but check it.
In June of 1775, the Continental Congress created a unified army out of the revolutionary forces encamped around Boston and New York, and named after the great George Washington, Commander-in-Chief. The Continental Army suffered a bitter winter of Valley Forge, found glory across the waters of the Delaware, and seized victory from Cornwallis of Yorktown. Our army manned the airport. It ran the ramparts. It took over the airports. It did everything it had to do. And at Fort McHenry, under the rocket's red glare, it had nothing but victory. And when dawn came, their star-spangled banner waved defiant.
You make of that? This man said that the Continental Army seized airports in the 1700s. What is that? What is that about, Colonel?
I have no idea, except I'm sincere when I say this. I think, like Joe Biden at the end of his administration, Donald Trump at the beginning of his administration, only a year in, is suffering serious dementia. I don't say that frivolously. I think he is. And the sad thing about this, the dangerous thing about this, as Jake Sullivan and Tony Blinken flowed into Biden's dementia and did things that they should not have done, particularly with regard to Israel, people like Hegseth and Rubio and Noem and Kash Patel and others are going to flow, Bondi, into Trump's dementia, and Steve Miller, par excellence, do what they want to do. That's the scary thing right now. And Trump's going to bless it because he is demented and increasingly demented, I think. So it's a very serious issue, I think. It's subject of humor. Yes, I watch, comedians are making hay while the sun shines for this, and the sun is shining brilliantly. But it is extremely dangerous what we're doing, because all these people around Trump are extremely dangerous people.
So what is the affair in Venezuela? What is this all about? I know it's about blocking Cuba and economy. I know it has something to do with China, and I know it has something to do with Russia. But what is it really about? Because it is costing money to deploy troops down, forces down there, and it's costing political capital to do what they've done there, because the world has now turned against them. And even some of the allies are saying Trump and the administration has become so reckless that they can no longer trust them or control the U.S.
True. And as significant as our allies feeling that way are our potential enemies like China, Russia, and others. They are moving to do things that are going to be majorly inimical to our interests, But let's go back to Venezuela. The prima facie reason was not narco-terrorism, which probably doesn't even exist to the extent that Trump has claimed. And his own DEA, Drug Enforcement Agency, says that. So I got to see this trial they're going to have. But I know how they conduct trials too. So the ostensible reason, the reason it made some sense, was 300 billion barrels of oil, the largest known reserve in the world, and high sulfur content oil, which is very, very important for diesel. And America's production system and delivery system, transportation system in its own country runs principally on, well, let's say 52% are trucks, other rail and things like that, but it all uses diesel, particularly the trucks. So we need that very badly. And Charles Koch and his refineries, which do this kind of high sulfur content oil, need it very badly. And Charles Koch is a billionaire who has been influencing the government for a long time. So that's ostensibly and a legitimate reason. It's illegal what we've done to fulfill that reason, totally illegal, even in international law, but also in domestic law because the Congress didn't approve it. But the real reason, I think, underneath this comes from Project 2025, from the Heritage Foundation, and from other realists, if you will, like John Mearsheimer, for example. The real reason is China now owns 60% of South America in terms of economic might. Look at that port they've built in Peru. That port is negating the Panama Canal. It is fabulous. I had a conversation with a friend of mine in Lima recently. It's an incredible port, what they've done. What China has done is not predatory capitalism on its face like we do. You know, we rape, pillage, and plunder in South America. We ally ourselves with the top 5%. That's not a good sign. But who knows? He might be an honest man. Might be a decent trial, and then Trump's going to look really bad.
Do you think that there's any negotiations, a give and take between Venezuela and the United States to get Maduro back, making some kind of concessions on a U.S. presence or reopening up a U.S. embassy or to give concessions to certain companies to work freely in there for the return of the legitimate president of Venezuela?
That's all subject to what they want, and they is those in power, to include the very powerful people around Rodriguez. If they don't want him back, they will protest mightily about wanting him back, but they won't want him back. Not really. I don't know. I can't crawl into their heads. I know there's some pretty awful people around her, and they were around him. When I say awful, they'd kill you in a heartbeat, cut your tongue out, throw it away. And it's not necessarily drugs, it's money, and it's money from gold, it's money from the oil, which is where most of the money was going into their pockets. So there is corruption, there's no question about that. And there are very powerful people circling around that corruption. So they might not want him back. We might have done them we might have done Rodriguez a favor. You know, I just don't know.
Well, you know, his brother and his son, they're power brokers there too. So
yes.
Wouldn't they have a say in this because they that's their father and brother, and they hold powerful positions.
Yeah, you'd think so. I would think that Rodriguez would be pretty, well, I can't say straightforward because no one's straightforward in this, but basically for having him back. But, you know, kind of like we would recognize a problem in Korea or wherever and say, come home. You don't want to die. You know, we can't do that in Korea now because we got about 250,000 Americans living in the greater Seoul area. And you can no way you do a non-combatant evacuation operation. It's just too massive. You'd need too many airplanes, too many ships and everything. But I could understand that he would maybe put something out like that. If you don't want to die, come home because it's coming. It's coming. And Russia is allied with Iran now. Formal treaty.
That means a lot. So whatever happened to the peace president? And let me play this little clip for you because it seems like Tulsi Gabbard is trotted out whenever Trump needs cover, and then she goes back and hide and doesn't say anything about the wars of aggression. But this is what she was saying on the campaign trail for Trump.
Vote for Kamala Harris is a vote for Dick Cheney, and it's a vote for
norms, and then saying, I'm
a minion of a tyrant.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm saying. It seems like politics changes people, U.S. politics in particular. But it seems also that, like as I said, she's only trotted out whenever it is to defend or to give
the government for allowing that to happen. And they're really mad at the IRGC because they know most of the money the government does make, particularly off oil and gas, is ripped off by the IRGC commanders. So they're angry with that too. But they know the IRGC will shoot them for their anger. So there's genuine protests going on in Iran right now. But here's the situation that's going to develop if Iran goes preemptively through the United States military. We didn't do too well in Afghanistan. We didn't do too well in Iraq. Well, we can snatch Maduro's. But when it comes to really fighting a full-up war against a dedicated, competent enemy, we haven't done that since World War II. I would not even argue we did that in Korea.
Once again, Colonel, you hit it out of the park. I want to thank you for your time and your wisdom. You know, from time to time I have to hit you up just to pick your brain a little bit, and I'm glad we had you on the show today.
Good to be with you.
I'll send you the video. Be blessed and be safe.
Yeah, I wish the world were a more hopeful place.
It's looking bad, Colonel. It's looking bad.